We're live.
And we're live, or so we think. Now we're live. There we go. In the robotic form. Because I'm not sure how the internet's going to hold up, because it's been a little bit dodgy in testing today. So we're hoping for the best. But if it manages to glitch out or something, we'll have to apologise and see what we can do to sort that out in the future. But we are back after a 1 week long hiatus, which that's me again. A 1 week long hiatus due to just various circumstances, not being able to get a show date up, because as much as we are still in lockdown, it has freed up a little bit so we can do other things and family and stuff like that. Gavin says hello, Will.
Hello, Gavin.
So welcome to another week of division previews. It is the second to last week. Some would say the penultimate week, but arguably the best division, the most even division, I would say, with lots of chopping and changing over the off season. It is the NFC West. In terms of news this week, the thing I would say most newsworthy is that people are starting to come back to training camp or facilities. They're allowed to go into the facilities and they're allowed to do some other work thing, I would say. Not much. We're not getting people doing full contact pre-seasons or anything like that. We may even see the pre-season scrapped in general, but they're trying to get back on their feet.
I was going to say it's rumoured that the pre-season might be lowered to 2 games from 4 games. So in previous years it's been 4 games, but it's kind of been like you don't need to play 4 pre-season games. You can just play 2, and it makes it much easier, especially with what's going on. There's no point trying to risk playing more games. It's already difficult to play 1 game. Another piece of news as well is obviously the Dalvin Cook situation. He said he's going to hold out if he don't get a new contract.
Didn't want to talk about it, to be honest. It's been saddening me all week. No, but it is newsworthy, and it's you said Dalvin Cook will take part in no of these virtual off-season programs, or he ain't going to come back, I don't think, to do anything in the facility until he has got the bag. He wants, I think there was lots of numbers flying around. There was lots of numbers. I saw he wants 60 million to match Christian McCaffrey. Then the Vikings offered him 10, which again, I do agree, bit disrespectful. But then there was also like he wants at least the numbers that I think it's Tyler Johnson got with, was it Tyler Johnson?
David Johnson from the Cardinals. They give him 30 million a year, didn't they? And then he's just been traded to the Texans.
Exactly. So for me, I think that 13 million area is where it should be, but the Vikings offense runs, with no pun intended, off Dalvin Cook. Kirk Cousins is not the same player without that run pass option, handing it off to Dalvin Cook, but then keeping the ball and then making a throw that gives him time in the pocket. And we all know Kirk needs time. So, but obviously the other things that we've got to establish is injuries. He has got a history of injuries. This is his only. He wasn't even fit for the full year. He missed a couple games with. I think it was.
Injured his ankle or something, didn't he? His knee.
Was it? I thought it was pec or something like that. I don't remember. But it was towards the back end of the season. He was fit for the playoff games anyway. But so he has. This is his full fit season with very good production. I'll give him that. It was very good production, because he is the soul and heart of the offense, I would say. But you can't take away the 2 years previous where we didn't have many games, where, especially in the first year, where he tore his ACL. So that's the factor. And you've got Alexander Mattison, who, when he came in last year, looked rather impressive.
Yeah. It's tough when trying to pay running back, because you look at it and think it's definitely a replaceable position, but when you've got Dalvin Cook who brings so much offense and so much to the team, like you said with Kirk Cousins, when defenses know they've got to stop Dalvin Cook, their scheme shift to try and stop Dalvin Cook. You take Dalvin Cook out of the backfield, they can focus all their attention on Kirk, and they don't really give respect to the running back. It's very similar to when my team, Dallas Cowboys, Ezekiel Elliott was suspended for 6 games. And in those 6 games, you just saw the defenses were going straight for Dak Prescott because they weren't bothered about Alfred Morris in the backfield. They thought, you know what, it's Alfred Morris. You know, we can stop him. You know, he's nothing special. Let's all focus on Dak Prescott. As soon as Zeke came back, the defensive focus shifted. Everyone was like, we need to stop Zeke. And it just gave Dak more time in the pocket and it gave him more open throws. So it's vital that Dalvin Cook's there. But the NFL's it's a hard cap league. You know, if you pay one player, it means you can't pay another player. It's not like the NBA where there's loopholes in the salary cap where you can go over the cap to sign players you've drafted. In the NFL, it's a very hard cap league, and you're only giving those second contracts to those players that really make that big impact. And Dalvin Cook has made the big impact, but the position that he plays, it's tough because he can get injured at any moment, and his form can just fall off a cliff at any moment. It just happens with running back. It's really, really strange. But when you're getting hit every single play, you know, I can understand it.
I think we spoke about it. You know, we look at players like, we'll talk about David Johnson. You know, got that big money, and then he's been traded the year after. You look at Todd Gurley. They've had to literally, before he got guaranteed money, ship him away because they couldn't handle how much money he was going to get because it wouldn't have been beneficial to the team. I mean, to an extent, look at Zeke. I think he played better arguably before he got all this money, and he didn't quite live up to where he needed to last year, in my opinion, personally. I know he still had a good year. You were the best offense in the league, but
Le'Veon Bell as well.
Yeah, Le'Veon Bell's another one. I mean, you look at them, the names that are up there in the highest paid, and Dalvin Cook is better than, you know, half, if not more than half of them. So I understand that he wants the money, and he deserves the money based on this season, but there is a lot of other factors that need to be taken into account before you go throwing Christian McCaffrey type numbers, because Christian McCaffrey offers a lot more as a receiver in the backfield as well. Dalvin Cook is very good with his hands. He's not he doesn't drop on an awful lot, but he's not Christian McCaffrey. And this makes me fear for what Derrick Henry is going to be like next year if he has another season like this year.
Well, Derrick Henry said that before the season was up, before Christian McCaffrey got his money, Zeke was still the highest paid top running back he was still the highest paid running back in the league at this point, 15 million. Derrick Henry said he wants that to be the base of his contract, so he doesn't want to be paid a penny less than 15 mil. And now we just seen Christian McCaffrey get 16 mil. Derrick Henry's probably thinking, well, 16 mil is going to be the base of my contract now, and you know, good luck to the Tennessee Titans because he's a great player, but you know, when you're paying around $16-17 million for a running back, you know, when you could arguably pay a brilliantly good defensive end pass rusher for 17 million. You could pay a great cornerback. You know, the league's becoming more of a passing game. You know, offenses are throwing more passes per game. You need those weapons on the outside. A receiver, you need to pay. You know, you need a top receiver to pay for. You need a top cornerback to pay for to defend those receivers. Offensive line, you know, you need a top left tackle nowadays. Do you want to spend all that money on a running back when you can look to spend it in other positions or spread it out across your team? You know, it's a tough decision.
Yeah, I think cap in general needs addressing because, for example, like the quarterback money is going up and up and up. And I mean, let's be fair, Jared Goff got so much money. And it wasn't because he was the best quarterback in the league. It was because he was the next guy up, the next guy to get a new contract. And I don't really believe that's how it should work because it leaves you with positions like we've got now, which is, for example, like the running back market is going up and up and up, but the cap room's not. And even with this new this new season, due to worldly circumstances, the cap might even go down because of, you know, not as much
coronavirus.
Yeah, exactly. So if every other contract's going up and the cap room can't go with it, I think it might need to be restructured that a little bit. That's all, because there's not quite enough money to go around. That's why you can't pay one player so much and then sacrifice the rest of your team for one player.
Yeah, and that's why you've got to take advantage of when your quarterback is on a rookie deal, you go all out, you sign all them big players because your quarterback will only be making $4 million if you're a first round pick. You know, for example, in the case of Dak Prescott, he was making $800K in his third year. Now he wants to be paid $36 million per year, which is just crazy. And you know, teams who want, you know, players who want contracts down the road, now they're thinking, well, in a few years' time, the salary cap was meant to spike about $50 million next season. It was meant to fly up. Because of this coronavirus, it's probably going to go down about $10-20 million. So teams are reluctant to pay for players. But yeah, I do agree the cap is a very, very hard cap league because I know I just mentioned the NBA. They have this thing called bird rights. If you draft a player in the NBA, when it's time for them to be paid a contract, you can go over your salary cap to pay the players you drafted yourselves. Or say you trade for a player and acquire their bird rights, you can go over the cap to pay them, and it's called luxury tax. And basically, it's a tax that the owner has to pay. So you can play, you can have a team, you can have players on your roster, on an NBA roster. You can be $30 million over the cap, and you can be fine because your owner's paying the tax. In the NFL, you can't even be $1 million over the cap because you're over the cap. So I think bird rights on drafted players will be a very good inclusion because you could go over the cap to sign those players you've drafted and groomed yourself instead of letting them walk to another team just because you don't want to pay them stupid money, basically.
Did you see that there was a graphic that came up on, I think it was NBC the other day, in terms of free agents next year in the running back market? There's Alvin Kamara, Kenyon Drake, Dalvin Cook, and there was just a list of just such good running backs next year. And obviously some of them will probably get re-signed. I'd imagine Alvin Kamara will probably stay with the Saints. I just can't imagine him anywhere else. But, no. I mean, that proves to me how much of a rotational position it is when you look at all these big names, yet they're just going to let the contracts go and then decide when as to whether they want. Because every 3 years, teams draft a new running back in round 2, 3, or something like that, just to keep the position healthy and have enough depth in the room to be able to continue when running backs get hurt, which is quite often. But, alas, we are talking about running the ball a lot. And in this division, we have a team that likes to run the ball a lot. And obviously, we've got the LA Rams, we've got the Arizona Cardinals, we've got the Seattle Seahawks, and the Super Bowl runners-up, the San Francisco 49ers. Will, again, has put together a nice PowerPoint, as he tends to do each week now, apart from last week. But there we go. So I'll let you take the reins.
Yeah, before I start, I will just say you might be looking at that Rams logo and think that's their old logo. It is. I couldn't find an image with their new logo on. But you'll be pleased to see in the first slide, we'll be talking about the Los Angeles Rams. And you can see in the top right, their new logo is there.
Can we have the old one, please? Jesus Christ.
I was going to say, I'm not a fan of that. I think people made their own badges, their own logos for the Rams, and they look better than what the actual team could come up with, which is crazy. But yeah, so the Rams finished last season with a 9-7 record, and they missed the playoffs. They were coming off a season where they made the Super Bowl and lost to the New England Patriots. So a bit of a disappointing season last season for the Rams, missing the playoffs. And they had the winning record. They were the 8th seed in the They were the 7th seed in the NFC. So they were that last team just to miss out on the playoffs, but they still missed out. They re-signed left tackle Andrew Whitworth to a 3-year, $30 million contract that includes $12.5 million guaranteed. And they also re-signed defensive end Michael Brockers to a 3-year, $31.5 million contract. After his deal fell through with the Ravens verbally agreed to sign him on a 2-year deal, I think it was. But he had some medical issues, so the Ravens decided to stop pursuing him, and they signed Derek Wolfe from the Broncos instead. So the Rams, they got him back on $10 million salary. The Whitworth deal, I do like it. He's getting a bit older, but he's a very seasoned veteran at left tackle. He knows how the league works. He's very experienced. And left tackle is such an important position. It protects the quarterback's blind side. So they've got him back on a nice deal, I think, for $10 million per year. In free agency, they signed former Bears outside linebacker Leonard Floyd to a 1-year, $10 million contract after he was released by the Chicago Bears. So he signed on a 1-year deal. And they also signed former Lions DT Ashawn Robinson to a 2-year, $17 million contract. And their final deal was re-signing guard Austin Blythe to a 1-year, $3.9 million contract. That was all their deals. They didn't make any more deals in free agency. That was it. Their notable loss, however, they lost Brandon Cooks, who they traded to the Texans. They lost Corey Littleton, who went to the Oakland Raiders. They lost Todd Gurley, who they released and went to the Falcons. And in the draft, with their first pick, they took Cam Akers, running back from Florida State, with a 52nd overall pick. They also had another second-round pick, where they took Van Jefferson, the wide receiver from Florida, who's 24 years old, but he's a rookie. So he's going out of college a bit old, but again, very, very good, technically good route runner. He should fit into the league straight away. He should be one of those receivers where, receivers sometimes take quite a while to get settled into the league. But with Van Jefferson playing so many years in college, I think he's refined his game so much. I think he'll be an impact from day one for the Rams, which I think they'll be happy about. So, what do you think overall to the offseason of the Rams?
I think the Rams offseason was okay. I think it was all right. The thing is, I think the Rams already have a good team, I would say, but something about last season never quite clicked. Maybe it was a Super Bowl hangover, possibly, but they did finish 9-7. For me, I like. Right. I'm going to talk because the Brandon Cooks trade was that to the Houston Texans, I think, wasn't it? Was it to the Houston Texans? Yeah. So they've decided to replace Brandon Cooks and Todd Gurley with Cam Akers and Van Jefferson. Will we see a little less production? I would say so, yes. I definitely think I'd say that I've seen a little less that, over. They've also lost like Dante Fowler, Corey Littleton, and Nickel Roby Coleman over the past on defense as well. So I think the Rams be able to. I don't think they've got a chance of pushing to the next level. Just I'd say mostly due to the division they're in, but it wasn't by any means a bad season in my opinion.
I thought their off-season was all right. Nothing special, nothing bad because they got some players here and there, but they lost some key pieces on defense, like you said. I think with Jared Goff signing that massive contract extension, it just completely handcuffed the team because they can't afford to keep these players around. Like Corey Littleton went and got a nice $10 million per year contract with the Raiders. The Rams would have liked to have paid him, but they just couldn't afford it. Todd Gurley, they couldn't afford to pay his $15 million guarantee, so they just got rid of him, released him. And Brandon Cooks won a $16 million contract, so they just traded him to the Texans. They wanted to get that salary off the books. But I don't mind the idea of them starting fresh with Cam Akers because I think when you look at the running backs in this draft, there was so many good ones.
Yeah.
Obviously, you had your top five, really, we like to call it. But those top five could have been alternative. You could have put those in any order. And I think, bringing in a fresh running back like Cam Akers, who showed he can run the ball very effectively, Florida State last season. I think with that Rams offensive line that took a step back last season, I like to see it take a step forward this season, open the lanes up for Cam Akers. Maybe that could benefit their offense more. Just a more fresh running back, because Todd Gurley is still a brilliant running back, but he lacked that explosiveness last season that we usually see from Todd Gurley. Getting in a new running back in Cam Akers, the rookie, maybe it can make some changes. And I think you've still got Robert Woods, a wide receiver, still a decent wide receiver. You've still got your two tight ends in Gerald Everett and Higbee. So you've still got some offensive weapons there. And obviously now you've got Van Jefferson. Maybe we see Jared Goff improve from last season because it's fair to say last season was a bit of a torrid season for Jared Goff coming off that massive contract extension. Yeah. But looking long term, I don't see the Rams. I think their ceiling is just making the playoffs. If they make the playoffs, I can't see them advancing very, very far.
I think with the division they're in, I can't see them going over 0.500, I'd say. If I was doing it under-over, I'd probably stick it at 7.
Yeah.
Because I sadly for them, they're in a position where in another division, in a weaker division, maybe put them in the Bills division, they'd actually, they'd fare quite well. It's just this division is so difficult. I don't think they made enough improvements. I think they lost a lot of experience. Yes, rookies come in and they can infuse the team with youthfulness and just explosive plays that Todd Gurley maybe lacked in, obviously, his most recent year with the Rams that Cam Akers can bring. But I just don't think they'll be able to, more due to circumstances rather than them being a bad football team.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I think their absolute ceiling is just making the playoffs, but that's their absolute ceiling. I don't see them challenging for any playoff. I don't see challenging for a Super Bowl. I don't even see them challenging for a playoff win. It's going to be very tough. And like you said, this division, all the other teams, it's fair to say, you could say all the other teams improved or, stayed similar. They didn't lose any big names. Like the Rams lost some big names across their roster. So I think it's going to be a tough season for the Rams. But, Sean McVay, people rave about him as a top head coach. He won Coach of the Year in his first season. It's up to him now. Can he prove to be that brilliant coach and get the best out of these players? Because they're going to need it big time if they're going to do anything in this division or in the NFC, which is already stacked. Move on to the next team now, and that is the San Francisco 49ers, last season's Super Bowl runners-up. They finished last season with a 13-3 record, and as I just said, made it to the Super Bowl where they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. Their main acquisition this offseason was getting left tackle Trent Williams from the Redskins in exchange for a 2020 fifth-round pick and a 2021 third-round pick. An absolute steal of a deal. The guy's still only 31 years old. He's not even that old. And he's a Pro Bowl level talent. And Joe Staley's retired. You've replaced him with Trent Williams. He sat out all of last year. He didn't want to play for the Skins because they wouldn't give him a new contract. So it's a year less wear and tear on his body. He can come back fully healthy. And I think for a team that's challenging, it's a great trade from the 49ers. They also re-signed Arik Armstead to a 5-year, $85 million contract that includes $48.5 million guaranteed. He actually led their team in sacks last season with 10.5. They had more than Nick Bosa. So he re-ups on a 5-year deal. It's fair to say he gets the bag there with a big deal. They also re-signed safety Jimmy Ward to a 3-year, $28.5 million contract. A player that people expected to leave the 49ers came back to they re-signed him, which is very, very good for them. It keeps the secondary intact. They re-signed centre Ben Garland to a 1-year, $2.5 million contract. And they signed former Chargers wide receiver Travis Benjamin to a 1-year, $2 million contract to add some more speed at the skill positions. Notable losses, however, they include DeForest Buckner, who they traded to the Colts for the first-round pick 13 overall. They also lost Emmanuel Sanders, who signed with the New Orleans Saints, and they lost Garrett Selleck, long tight end, who retired. In the draft, with their 2 first-round picks, they took Javon Kinlaw, the defensive tackle from South Carolina. He was basically their replacement for DeForest Buckner. And with the 25th overall pick, they took Brandon Ayuk, who, coming into the draft, he was definitely a high riser, seen as more of a second-round pick. When he got close to the draft, people were seeing him more as a first-round pick, and that's where he ended up. And he pretty much replaced Emmanuel Sanders as the 49ers outside or slot receiver. So overall, what did you make of the 49ers? I actually really like their offseason.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it was fantastic. It's exactly what you want to see when you want to stay in the window for winning, in that Super Bowl window. We've talked about it with the Green Bay Packers. We personally don't think they did enough to be at that elite level. They probably will still stick around there. I don't want to say that they won't, but in terms of they've not added to their team to say we are sticking around at this top tier for the next couple of years. And I do believe the San Francisco 49ers did it. I mean, to me, they're one of the most exciting teams. They've got one of the most exciting coaches who runs one of the most exciting offenses. That defensive line, the way they get after the quarterback, I mean, it's great to watch. Yes, but I love what they did was what they lost, they got back in terms of losing Joe Staley, Trent Williams. All right, then. So next up, we've lost Emmanuel Sanders, getting Brandon Ayuk, a speedy wide receiver out of Arizona. And people probably looked at the Brandon Ayuk pick and wondered maybe was it a little bit of a reach with the wide receiver class of this year? I want to defend that and say no, because he at the time, I can't remember who went before him, but I'm pretty sure it was Justin Jefferson, and then he was arguably the next best man on the board. So I don't think that was a reach. And Javon Kinlaw, we'll worry about his knee tightness, definitely. That you've got to worry about that, but he has got the quality to be a leading defensive tackle in the NFL. If the knee wasn't there, he wouldn't have lasted till 14.
No, I probably wouldn't have. I mean, maybe the Jags at 9 would have been a contender to take him if he didn't have that knee issue. But we were just talking about the salary cap issues in the NFL. Well, the 49ers, DeForest Buckner just got paid $22 million from the Colts. Emmanuel Sanders just got paid, I think it's $8 million from the Saints. You get 2 rookies to replace him. Both first-round picks, both very good talents, and you're getting cheaper at the position whilst not even losing a step, basically. It was just a brilliant draft from the 49ers to replace those 2 gaps with 2 brilliant talents. So I really like their draft a lot.
And they couldn't pay both and DeForest Buckner because of the cap room. They couldn't pay them both. So they probably looked at the draft and said, where do we think we can get the best value? Because Chase Young wasn't going to be on the board. So at defensive end, after that, you're looking at gross massive. Clavon Jason, but he'd gone to the Jags at that point, hadn't he?
He was still on the board when the 49ers were picking, but Javon Kinlaw was definitely a higher talent than Clavon Jason.
Yeah, exactly. And even after that, you would have been looking at Yetur Gross-Matos, who didn't even make it, I don't think, into the first round. So, they would have been especially reaching. So I think the 49ers went about it in a really smart, a really meticulous way. And they've got better, which it can only bode well. There's still question marks for me over Jimmy Garoppolo. You've got to have question marks because in the Super Bowl he was poor. He was. The class divide between the 2 quarterbacks was so evident, even though the 49ers took a lead. And the thing is with the 49ers, what they realized during the playoffs is arguably that they didn't trust Jimmy Garoppolo, but more they could just run the ball down people's throats, very Tennessee Titan-esque. They did it to the Vikings. They did it to, was it Green Bay they did it to?
Run all over Green Bay, yeah.
They ran out. I don't even think. I think Jimmy made like 4 passes or something crazy.
I think he had 11 pass attempts against the Packers.
11 pass attempts. There you go. It was something bizarre over 4 quarters. But for me, yeah, the 49ers, a great team, and I like the additions they made. They needed to replace Emmanuel Sanders, so they just got in someone who can pretty much play that exact same role in Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, I totally agree. And when a team's making the Super Bowl and they're improving in the offseason, that's a scary sight for other teams in the NFL. So, yeah, I totally agree. Brilliant offseason for the 49ers. And, what a turnaround they've had over the past couple of years. It's all credit to their GM, John Lynch. He's turned the team around. He's drafted really well. And, he's just acquired brilliant talent. And obviously, the head of it all, Kyle Shanahan, brilliant hire from the Atlanta Falcons, who was the Atlanta Falcons OC, took him to the Super Bowl. He won an MVP with Matt Ryan, so that was a brilliant hire as well. So, yeah, the 49ers are here to stay, it's fair to say. But before we move on to the next team, we've got a word here from The Athletic. Can I talk through The Athletic, Kieran?
Oh, I thought you'd pitch in like I usually do with just the 1 point I always make. But we'll do it. Well, do you know what? We'll do it the opposite way around. Join The Athletic today for all your NFL, combat sports, football content. If you've been watching the Bundesliga recently, Ralph Honigstein, a writer for The Athletic, is on BT Sports. So that proves how reputable he really is. He's become a pundit. You get 50% off the annual subscription with the link in the description. You get a 7-day free trial. And do you know what? What else is there, Will? Because I can't quite think of one more thing.
No ads. And we love to see it. No ads. Kieran mentions it all the time. Why would, you're reading a story online, an ad pops up, skip ad, or one of 2 ads is about to show, and you can't skip the ad, and you lose where you lose track of what you've been reading. It's the most annoying thing ever. But with The Athletic, no ads. You can enjoy reading the stories, Kieran said, from the NFL. You can even watch, interested in football, cricket, even golf, basketball, any sport you like, The Athletic covers it. So join today. Use the link below to get 50% off your annual subscription and your 7-day free trial. So join The Athletic today. And no ads, just in case.
And no ads. Yeah, exactly.
Next team in the NFC West is Arizona Cardinals. They finished last season with a 5-10-1 record. They got the tie in the first game of the season against the Detroit Lions. Obviously, they missed the playoffs for that record, but still, their quarterback, Kyler Murray, won Offensive Rookie of the Year, so a good sign for them there. Their main move this offseason was acquiring DeAndre Hopkins, a star wide receiver from the Houston Texans, in an absolute broad daylight robbery, it's fair to say.
Yeah,
they only had to give up David Johnson, who we've just mentioned, the running back that is on a big contract, and a 2020 second round pick and a 2024 round pick. So you're getting some picks there, but you're getting a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL to pair with your young quarterback. Just an awesome move from the Arizona Cardinals. We couldn't believe it on the Frenzy stream when we were back at university. We couldn't believe it. We thought, the Cardinals, they're definitely giving up their first round pick to get him. Turns out they didn't even have to give a first round pick to get him, which is absolutely incredible. They also re-signed long-time wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald to a 1-year, $11 million contract, and they placed the transition tag on running back Kenyon Drake. So it's a 1-year deal, very similar to the franchise tag, but he will be back in the backfield for the Arizona Cardinals. In free agency, they made some big moves as well. They signed from a Bills defensive tackle, Jordan Phillips, to a 3-year, $30 million contract. They signed from a Lions outside linebacker, Devon Kennard, to a 3-year, $20 million contract. He was released by the Lions, but he's still a very good pass rushing linebacker. So a brilliant signing there for the Cardinals, who are looking to get into playoff contention this season. You need people that get after the passer, and they've got to start in Devon Kennard. They signed another linebacker from the Atlanta Falcons, Devontae Campbell, to a 1-year, $8.5 million contract. And they've also re-signed their right tackle, Marcus Gilbert, to a 1-year, $1.05 million contract. Notable losses, David Johnson, who we just mentioned, they traded him away to the Houston Texans. They also lost 2 wide receivers, Demir Bird and Pharaoh Cooper, but again, not massive losses there. And with their first round pick, they took probably the best overall player, apart from Chase Young, in the draft, and that was Isaiah Simmons, the linebacker / safety from Clemson. They took him 8th overall. I mean, the fact that he was still there at the 8th pick, the Cardinals, they needed offensive linemen, but they just couldn't pass up Isaiah Simmons. Very similar to the Cowboys. They went best player available with CeeDee Lamb. The Arizona Cardinals here, they went best player available with Isaiah Simmons. So overall, I really like this offseason for the Arizona Cardinals. I think they've improved a lot. What do you think to it, Kieran?
I was about to say, I could be controversial and say, it was such an underwhelming offseason, but then I'd be a liar. We speak about teams that have had the best off seasons, and I don't think you can find many better than the Arizona Cardinals in terms of combining free agency and the draft. I mean, they did manage to sort out a little bit of offensive line because in the third round they managed to get Josh Jones, who was still on the board at number 72. Is it me, or was some god somewhere was praying down and just saying everything the Arizona Cardinals could possibly want, let it happen, even though it makes no logical sense that they should get DeAndre Hopkins with a second-round pick and some other fodder that you don't need. You know,
a packet of crisps and an half can of Coke, that's all I had to give up.
Aye, exactly. A packet of chips in America. Yeah. I mean, Isaiah Simmons, you get a Swiss Army knife at number 8. We've spoke about him a lot, about how bloody versatile he is, and he leaves them. They can play so many creative schemes, I think, with Isaiah Simmons, because if you line him up in safety and then you run a blitz and you go and, you know, he's got the speed, he's got the tackling, he's got absolutely everything you could possibly need. One thing I will say is, as you said, the offensive line, I think, still needs a little tiny bit more work. I don't think Josh Jones is going to be the solution. But in Kyler Murray, you've got a mobile quarterback who can escape the pocket. He's magic on his feet. You know, you put him up there with escaping the pocket, I would say, with a lot, not alongside, but, you know, you've got Russell Wilson, Mahomes, Deshaun, and then that level underneath because Kyler's still got to do some growing. You've got him. You've got one negative. I don't want to put any negatives really on the Arizona Cardinals off season. Is one, they're in a tough division. That's unfortunate for them because any team that makes this much improvements in the off season should be a shoo-in for the playoffs, but sadly they're not. I wouldn't be surprised if 2 teams do make it from this division under the winner, because there's an extra team, isn't there, this year? So that could possibly happen.
7 seeds per conference season. So, like you say, we could see. I mean, we could even see 3 teams from one division make the playoffs, which is absolutely incredible with this added playoff spot.
Do you think this is the best chance of seeing it?
Out of all the divisions, this is the best division. If there's a chance for 3 teams to make the playoffs, the NFC West is definitely the best chance of making it, in my opinion.
I do want to say, though, in terms of the Arizona Cardinals, as much as they got Isaiah Simmons, I still question that secondary. Because last year, in passing yards allowed per game, they were the worst in the NFL. So I do worry that they're still a little bit weak in letting up them big plays in the backfield. But that's, you know?
Yeah, it's tough because they still have Patrick Peterson, who's still one of the best cornerbacks in the league. There were rumours that the Cardinals could trade him away, but now with the players they've got, they're looking like a better team. They're looking like they could be possibly a winning team. Maybe we see the Patrick Peterson, you know, because back in the day, Patrick Peterson was probably the best corner in the NFL. He's still up there now. And they've also got a young safety called Budda Baker, who made the Pro Bowl last year. He's a promising young safety, strong safety. So yeah, definitely with the Arizona Cardinals, the secondary is a question, but I think if Patrick Peterson gets to the level, I know it's ifs and buts, but if Patrick Peterson can play to the level he did a few years ago, because I think his players just dropped off just because he's playing for a team that only won 5 games. You know, you're not going to be running around, you know, committing your body every single play. That's just how it is. If you've got a team that's winning and hungry and you've got the players around you to, you know, to up your game, I think we could definitely see that with Patrick Peterson. And Isaiah Simmons, you know, you can use him as a safety or a linebacker, but the beauty with Isaiah Simmons is he's great in coverage, like you mentioned, but he can also blitz. He had 7 sacks last season for Clemson. He also had 3 interceptions. He had like over 80 tackles, 80 solo tackles. So you know, the guy is a Swiss Army knife. He's good at almost everything.
I was going to say he's going to be one of the most. I think in general, Arizona are going to be one of the most fun teams to watch. But watching the different schemes that Cliff Kingsbury could do with having Isaiah Simmons on defense, it's just going to be really fun to watch the Arizona Cardinals next year. And I'm actually just looking at their draft, and number 114 overall was Lecky Fotu, and he's another one.
Big DT.
Yeah, and again, I think for that pick at that position, that is value. It really is for what they got. And I'm struggling to. I mean, with the cornerback thing, I was pushing it. I was trying to find something that was a little bit weaker, maybe a little more on offensive line, maybe a little more in the secondary. They don't need anything on offense because David Johnson, getting him from the Texans alongside Kenyon Drake. And even Kyler Murray, when he picks up the ball and makes runs for downs, you know, he's arguably one of the best quarterbacks on his feet. And I mean, alongside, I think it was Kyler Murray and Lamar last year, surprisingly, Daniel Jones was up there in terms of yards per carry. Didn't expect that, but there you go.
Jones and Josh Allen as well. He likes to run the ball a bit.
Yeah, so I do think Arizona are going to be an exciting team to watch next year. Whether they make the playoffs, I think it's not silly to say they could, but I worry, one, about them being a bit overhyped, and two, again, they're just a victim of being in a really, really tough division and having to play both San Francisco and Seattle for 2 times a year.
Yeah, I do agree. And I think it all just depends on what Kyler Murray's second year like. Because, we talk about the talent he has. He could have a sophomore slump like many quarterbacks have had in their career. But if he can set that second year step like Lamar Jackson had done or Patrick Mahomes did, I know it's a tall task to do. If he can step up like those two did and take his game even further, there's no reason why the Cardinals can't make the playoffs. Because when you look at the roster overall, they've got a good young coach. They've got Kyler obviously at quarterback. They've got the offensive weapons. They've got a new defensive, Swiss Army knife and Isaiah Simmons. They've still got Chandler Jones on the defensive line, one of the more underrated pass rushers in the league. They've still got Budda Baker, the growing safety. So when you look at the roster as a whole, it's a good roster. But I do agree, they are coming off a 5-win season. Let's not forget that. But I definitely think when you look at the team, they've definitely improved. I think they'll definitely win more than 5 games next year. No question about that.
Yeah, I'd definitely say so. It just depends. Again, as you said, to be fair, we're all kind of sat here presuming, rightly so after what he's shown in his first year, but we're all presuming that Kyler Murray is going to be the second coming of Mahomes and Jackson just because of the way he played last year. But for them, you've also got second seasons like
Baker Mayfield.
Thank you. I don't know how I forgot his name. We talked about him the other day. But yeah, second seasons like Baker Mayfield, where he goes from rookie of the year to irrelevant within a couple of years.
What's crazy about Baker Mayfield is, he had 23 touchdowns, I think, and only eight interceptions in his first year, or maybe 10 interceptions. This season, he had 21 touchdowns, 22 picks. So it just shows, we don't know what Kyler Murray is going to play like. It could go either one way or the other. But I'm very excited to see, like you said, it's a young team. It's an exciting team. I can't wait to see how they do next season.
It's a very exciting team to watch, and it'll be a very exciting division to watch as well.
I totally agree. We'll move on to the final team now, and that is the Seattle Seahawks. 11-5 record last season. They lost in the division round to the Green Bay Packers, but still a very good season. I know a few seasons ago, the Seattle Seahawks lost to the Legion of Boom, which is Cam Chancellor, Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, and everyone was saying the Seahawks are going to be 3-13. They're going to be 2-14. But Russell Wilson. He took them to the playoffs. 10-6 record, and he took them to the playoffs again this season with an 11-5 record. Russell Wilson, we know what he can do, but in terms of what they did this offseason, they re-signed Jaron Reed, the defensive tackle, to a 2-year, $23 million contract. They acquired cornerback Quinton Dunbar. Looking back on it, probably shouldn't have done that. I mean, it was only a 5th-round pick, but Quinton Dunbar's been in the news for a certain armed robbery, along with Giants cornerback DeAndre Baker. So it's looking unlikely he could play this season.
Wasn't it? Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but wasn't it that he had nothing to do with it? I'm pretty sure it was only DeAndre Baker in the end that had something to do with it. I'm pretty sure.
I think so, but the NFL, I mean, they can look past court cases and they can put their own suspensions on whatever players they want, even if the player is, even if he's, not guilty. The NFL can still think, well, we think he was in the wrong and we can suspend him. But I think he's definitely up in the air his future. But for a 5th-round pick, for what he did last season with the Redskins, I don't think it was that bad of a trade. But I think with just that news coming out, it's kind of hampered it a bit. I think it was a good deal. Now it's a bit of a shaky one. Don't know what to expect from Quinton Dunbar. They put a 2nd-round tender on Titan Jacob Hollister. They signed former Panthers Titan Greg Olsen to a 1-year, $7 million contract. Again, he's a veteran Titan. He knows how to block. He can still catch passes as a receiver. So again, a nice deal there for the Seahawks on a 1-year deal. So low risk, possibly high reward. They signed former Texans running back Carlos Hyde to a 1-year, $4 million contract to play with Chris Carson, who got injured to the back end of last season. And obviously DJ Dallas, who they drafted. Didn't forget him this time. And they also signed offensive guard BJ Finney to a 2-year, $8 million contract. They signed and re-signed another 5 players, smaller and cheaper deals. Notable losses, Quentin Jefferson, who went to the Bills, the defensive tackle, for a cheap deal. George Fant went to the Jets, possibly overpaid, the tackle. And Justin Britt, their centre, retired. So he's no longer there. But with the 1st-round pick, they drafted Jordan Brooks, the inside linebacker from Texas Tech, with the 27th overall pick. They also took the defensive end out of Tennessee, whose name escapes me, in the second
I'm
round.
just looking. Darrell Taylor.
That's it. They traded up and got him as well. So they obviously didn't think he'd be there when they were picking, but they got him in the second round. Overall, what did you make of the Seahawks offseason? I thought it was all right. But again, his team had a winning record. It's hard to improve.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with. I'd agree with that statement. I think a lot of it last year was the fact that Seattle finished with 11-5 record when half the team was in the hospital. It's quite impressive. But they did have a lot of injury concerns last year, so a lot of them coming back will feel fresher and they'll feel like new additions to the team. Again, you talked about the Quinton Dunbar thing. It's like it was a good signing. I think it was quite a decent signing, but then what's come of it? It's not so good. Yeah, it's not so good. But in hindsight, it's crap. But I still think once we get past all that, I still think he'd be a nice addition to the team. I like as you said about the Panthers tight end Greg Olsen to go alongside Jacob Hollister, who they have as well. The two of them too could run 2 tight end schemes if they wanted to, which would be quite nice. And as you said, they've got Carlos Hyde because of Chris Carson. You bring him back in. You don't want him to get injured. We talked about running backs earlier; they get injured a lot. So, and then they've got DJ Dallas. What a third running back to have, honestly. Best running back in the league, in my opinion.
Could even throw him at fullback and he'd probably just lay people out, wouldn't he?
That's it. That is sarcasm. I don't want to go on record saying that he's the best running back to ever play the game. I'm sad that they've not re-signed Marshawn Lynch yet. To be honest, I'm really disappointed.
You see, it's tough because does Lynch want to come back as well? I don't know if it was just like they signed him but out of desperation because there's no one else on the market. Does Lynch maybe won't even come back at this point? I'm not too sure.
He looked like he'd never left. To give credit to Marshawn Lynch, he looked like he'd never left. But yeah, some notable losses definitely, but I don't think they made the team massively worse.
No.
We did talk about during the draft watch along though that we thought Jordan Brooks was a bit of a. You said the Seahawks will pick someone no one's mentioned, and you were right. They did because I think they believe in talent that they can groom, rather than the name talent that was on the board at the time, or the more media touted players, we should probably say.
They believe in who they believe in. That's basically it.
Yeah, it's very similar to the Patriots. They took Jared Stidham when people believed that. Well, the thing was with Jared Stidham, he was on a crap team. So when people have crap teams, they ignore the players. But you look at them, they took a guy out. Was it Kyle Duggar out of bloody Lenore Ryan?
Ryan, yeah.
It's one of them. Not that Texas Tech's a smart like a level of skill of Lenore Ryan, but they take players that they know have the talent, yet people overlook them because
they took him over Patrick Queen. That's why they took him over, and I think that's why everybody was surprised because we thought they'd go linebacker, but the fact that they took Jordan Brooks instead of Patrick Queen, I think it definitely surprised many people.
Well, probably the Ravens more than anyone because they thought get. I'm not going to say it. GTFI, get them in, man. They would have been. I mean, we saw that fist pump from. Was it John Harbaugh? The Ravens, yeah, where he gives it a little fist pump when. That was probably when he found out that Jordan Brooks was going and not Patrick Queen. But I mean, with the Seattle Seahawks, we'll get back to track because we just went on a massive tangent about other things. For me, when you've got Russell Wilson, you've got a chance because he's arguably the best player in the NFL. In terms of, I was going to say that there's not many better.
No.
So for me, I can't disregard the Seahawks ever. Because of having, it's very much, I keep bringing up the comparison to the Patriots, but it's almost like when you see Bill Belichick. And again, you look at Seattle and the coaching staff there alongside Russell Wilson. I mean, I saw a lot from, is it DK Metcalf last year?
It was a second round pick as well. So maybe, they say we pick players that they think, they pick their own players, but sometimes it can pan out.
I mean, that's an athlete right there. He is a specimen and a half to have on your team. So I think we'll see a successful season from Seattle. I don't know about the I don't know about the record though, because I don't know about the 11-5 last year. Will they be better? Will they be worse? Will they be the same? I don't know about you. This division is difficult in terms of records for the pure fact that they all play each other. 6 of their games are against each other.
Yeah.
So, as I've said before, these predictions we're making at the end will not calculate with the rest of the teams.
No.
Like we've probably got teams losing 6 games and teams winning 8 games, but they play each other, and that's not possible. And but we will do a big season preview a couple of weeks before the season. I'm not sure when, because it might take a while to get through. So because we'll be doing one each.
Yeah.
So it might take a while to get through. So we might split it up to predicting every regular season game for me, then my off-season games the week after, then Will's regular season, then Will's off-season, and both have our Super Bowl champions come the end of it. So we'll figure out the logistics, but don't take too much into the records we give at the end. Is basically
these are just kind of a rough idea that we're basing it off for their moves in free agency. Basically, that's all it is.
And don't be surprised if things change when we go next. And we said, oh, but you said the Bengals were going to finish, or the Jags were going to finish 1-15. Yes, but that was back then. We've moved on now. So should we crack on to this really tough division to predict?
It's the hardest one yet. I think we can all agree.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go first? You go first. It's you.
Yeah. Right. You go first, because right, go on.
This is tough. It is very, very tough. But I think when you look at the division as a whole, you've got to look at it. The teams who, it's very, very common that the teams might just split records because, for example, the Cardinals might find it tough away to a team like the 49ers, but at home with the crowd behind them, they might get a shock win. But 4th place in the NFC West, I've gone with the LA Rams.
So have I.
With an 8-8 record. I still have them winning 8 games. What were you going to say?
No, because I went 7-9. So it's fairly close. Yeah, I mean, it's one of them. I know that if Rams fans watch this, I'm going, how can you do that when we were in the Super Bowl? God knows how long ago. And the Arizona Cardinals were 5-10.
It's a different team now. It's a different team now, isn't it?
And we could very much be on the hype train of the Kyler Murray, Larry Fitzgerald, and DeAndre Hopkins, and Kenyon Drake, and David Johnson. We are. We are. And we are on that. But we're going to believe in it now.
So, I've got Rams 8-8, finishing 4th in the division, which is absolutely mental. 8-8 and you finish 4th in the division. It's just crazy. 3rd, I've gone with the Arizona Cardinals. I've got them winning. I've got them going 9-7. So they get the winning record. 9-7, I think it's a fair record for them. 2nd, I've got the Seattle Seahawks. I've got them staying 11-5. I think they just stay as they are. And I've got the 49ers winning the division again, but this time 12-4 record. They lose one more game than they did last season, but still they win the division, and a brilliant season for them.
I think I've got the Cardinals finishing 3rd. I've got them going 8-8. And that is mainly due to the games they have to play in their division. I think would really tailor into that because I was looking at their because obviously I've done like quite a decent look at their schedule, and my God, do they have a tough portion in the middle where I think they play the Bills, the Cowboys, the Seahawks, and I'm just like Jesus. But don't be surprised if Arizona get off to a fire start because after week 1, I think they faced the Redskins, the Lions, and the Giants. Or something like that in that first period. So don't be surprised if they get off to like a 4-1 start, but then...
I mean, maybe they could catch fire then, win some of those big games. You just don't know, do you?
You never know. So, you know what? I've just talked about how I've looked in depth at this Cardinals. I'm going 9 and... No.
Don't remember, this isn't your last prediction anyway.
No, I know, but I'm looking like they've got games against Carolina. They'll probably win. They've got games against the Jets. They'll probably win. They're gonna pick up wins against the Rams and somewhere along. 9-7. I'll go with you. 9-7. Seahawks 10-6 and San Francisco 49ers 12-4. I agree with that. 12-4.
That's one. So we've got a pretty similar. We've got the exact same standings. Bit different differences on the records, but overall, we've got the division staying pretty similar in our estimations. We'll have to see how the seeding works out, because maybe the Cardinals with a 97 record, maybe they sneak into that 7th seed. We just don't know how it's going to all work out. But we'll see. And next week we have our final division previews. It's been a long series this, but we've got our final one, and that is the AFC West, another very good division with the current Super Bowl holders, Kansas City Chiefs, with their star man Patrick Mahomes. They've also got the Oakland Raiders in that division, the Denver Broncos, and the LA Chargers, who've improved a lot this offseason. It's fair to say.
You thought we had fun talking about offense this week. Wait for bloody next week. Jesus Christ! Offensively, possibly the best division in the league, because every team just went, if we can't defend the Kansas City Chiefs, let's just add so many weapons that we may outscore them.
Yeah, why not? But yeah, join us next week for that. Thanks for joining this week. Anything else you want to say, Kieran, before we end the stream?
Yes, I do actually.
Go on.
Because there's much content on the channel. We can't go without a filthy plug. Come on now. So on Tuesdays we've got the Wrestling Corner with Rowan and Simon. I need to get myself back on there and defend NXT, because I'm not having this slander for NXT, and they're giving all the love to AEW. I'll come in and defend the WWE. But that's on Tuesdays. On Wednesdays we've got the Top Corner, which is basically all your football content, with lots of European leagues coming back, and the Prem returning soon. Are you excited, Will? You're going to lift the title at Goodison with no one there?
You know what? We can't actually win the league at Goodison, apparently. I mean, unless Man City lose to Arsenal, which I can't see happening. But hopefully, if we beat Everton and then beat Palace, we've got next, we can win the league in an empty stadium. You know, I can't believe it. The season we're going to win the league, there's no fans there. It's typical, isn't it?
There is no way they're not having a parade and they're going to expect no one to turn up, because it's just not going to happen. But back to that, away from Arsenal, because they lost to Brentford, so enough about them. So did we. I don't know what I'm talking about. On Thursday, it's us. It's the NFL Corner, where we'll have the division preview. And we're going to brainstorm, hopefully, some fun ideas. Maybe because we did after the season ended, we did ranking the 32 quarterbacks. Maybe we rank wide receiver tandems and stuff like that. And we do some fun, some fun blue sky concepts, because we have a long off season to go. So, and then also tune into Twitch and YouTube with an alternating schedule, because it is a virtual Euro 2020, which I am actually so excited for. And it'll be running on this channel, and it'll be running on Twitch as well, because there is no Euros, but why don't we relive it through Pro Evolution Soccer? And just before we go, we will mention our teams that we are managing. Will, you have got
the mighty Israel.
The mighty Yossi Benayoun, who's retired, is Israel. And I've got, the home of cheese, Switzerland, which should be very fun for all to enjoy. So do tune in to the Twitch.
If we're talking about economies, mate, you're up there. You're up there with Switzerland. But unfortunately, it's football. You know, he's still decent, but not amazing.
We've got Shaqiri. Thank you. He's going to bang a bicycle kick like he did in last Euros from edge at box.
It honestly won't surprise me, because every single tournament he just seems to score some sort of worldly goal.
He does. He's the talisman of Switzerland. But they have a nice team. They're live from 7 tonight on the opposite channel. On Twitch, should I say, which is twitch.tv/the Top Corner. There will be the opening ceremony, I think Josh said, and the fixture between Turkey and Italy, which I will be watching closely, because that is my group. And then also, God, I didn't realise how much content we produce, you lucky buggers. Tomorrow as well, from 2:15 on this channel, and 3 p.m. on Twitch. 3 p.m. on Twitch will be the Euros. God, and 2:15 on here will be the Bundesliga watch-along as usual, and we will see the mighty Paderborn continue their rise up the table after picking up God knows how many draws since the restart. But we'll be watching all the games, including Dortmund and all the good teams, but especially Paderborn for me.
We love Paderborn.
We do. We all love Paderborn. So thank you for joining us. And when you said, did you have anything to say? It turns out I had a whole novel to speak about. So there you go.
I'm going to say is, I'm about to press end broadcast, and I mentioned, is there anything else to say? I've kind of saved the day a bit there.
I'll be honest. I think we need a graphic, because I cannot be bothered every week.
I agree.
Talking about everything and going, well, if you come 3 p.m. here and 2:15 here and 7 p.m. over there, basically, follow us on Twitch, subscribe on the YouTube, put the notification bell on, and then I don't have to do this splur every week because you'll be notified when we upload a video.
Follow Twitter as well. Follow the big old Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter is follow me as well. I'm great active on Twitter, me. Thank you very much. So that is enough from me and Will waffling about how much content we produce.
Content.
And the other boys produce as well. We're working hard during this quarantine time to kind of keep ourselves mind well, because it's a difficult time for everyone. But the world's slowly getting back on its feet, and we will slowly be bringing you more and more interesting, hopefully, content at the end of these division previews, which have been a lot of fun to do, but they have been an 8-week slog, so it's time for some blue sky concepts, I'd say.
Indeed, and hopefully come September, this is all over. I'm back in the studio, and my internet's not freezing for no reason.
No, it's been all right today. We're back in the studio, and we're back in the house watching Minnesota v Dallas and Minnesota v Jags and all the fun games there.
All of them. But yeah, that'll end it off. Turns out we had a lot to say. An extra 5 minutes, by the way. But yeah, thanks for joining, and we'll see you next week.